Hi guys, and welcome back to another exciting episode. In this episode we're looking at Cordyline australis, also known as the cabbage tree. It's the one just behind me. Cordyline australis has grown throughout New Zealand from the north to the South Island, and it's a very popular plant. It will grow up to around about 10 meters, but stays around about 6 meters. Now there are about 4 different varieties of native cabbage trees in New Zealand. So we've got Cordyline indivisa, which is the mountain cabbage tree. We've got Cordyline banksii, which is the forest cabbage tree, and we've got the dwarf cabbage tree, which is Cordyline familio. So all of those, which the dwarf one goes to about a meter. So the plant, if we just quickly look at the name, Cordyline means refers to a club, which is all about the root, and this particular plant here has a root underneath the it's a rhizome basically underneath the plant, and that's the cordyline bit. And australis means from Australasia or the southern hemisphere. Now, the plant has been used by the Maori and the early settlers, especially the Maori, early on for a food source. So if we start off with the roots were used as a sugary source for food and for flavorings. And it's just the plants that were about 2 meters or less, not these big ones, but just smaller plants up to 2 meters. The trunks also had high in carbohydrates, and they would cook that up, boil that up, and make some food out of it. And the shoots, the young shoots, once you have the smaller shoots, you peel back the leaves, there's a white, fleshy, sort of almost like a stem in there. That was chopped, and you could eat it raw, but it was preferably cooked. And that was basically how the term cabbage tree came around, because the early European settlers would refer to that as the vegetable that they would use to eat. Going up the stem's got a corky nature to it. It's quite a sort of rough texture to it. And then up to the leaves were used similar to the flax in baskets, ropes, and nets and that sort of thing. And then the flowers, sweetly scented, they attract some of the birds and things like the karuru, our wood pigeon, which goes in there, and a few other little birds that will feed on the nectar and also the fruits of the seeds. Now, this plant will grow, and it is very tolerant and a hardy plant. It will grow down to minus 15 Celsius. That's pretty cold, and it will tolerate sort of a little bit of snow and frost and that kind of coldness. It will also tolerate a bit of heat. It's used to being a bit dry. It also will grow in some of these wet, boggy situations, in the similar to the Phormium tenax, the flax. It doesn't mind growing with a bit of wet feet. It's tolerant of soils, tolerant of coastal conditions, and I also believe it's tolerant of fire. I'm not sure how that works, but it did say it was tolerant of fire as well. So it's a fairly easy plant to grow, and it is grows about medium, so it will form a single trunk initially. Once after the single trunk, it will tend to sort of, after 2 to 3 meters of that single trunk, it will tend to branch out into what we see here, which is this sort of multi clumps at the top, giving it a different form. Usually that's initiated after flowering. That's usually the point where it does start to form these separate little clumps. There are some very nice varieties out there. Some of the purple varieties which are great to use in subtropical gardens. They are things like Purple Tower and Red Star. I've used those. They also will grow in containers. If you haven't got a lot of space, you can grow them in containers or tubs. If I was using this plant in landscaping, what I tend to do is maybe have a group of them, like 3 cabbage trees, and then underplant them with grasses, our native grasses like some of the carex grasses or lamandra, and just have a nice sort of major sort of display. They can also be used as in native plantings, and also if you want to create a little bit of a tropical look. So a very cool plant to use. That's Cordyline australis, our native cabbage tree. Okay guys, we're going to leave it there, and we'll see you in the next one.